Football's a funny old game, isn't it? Before even kicking a ball, Argyle knew they were down. So what they did at Preston when they had the ball at feet was quite impressive. Yeah, 2-1 win, just a second away win of the season. Proved not to be enough ultimately. Yes, technically not officially relegated yet with one game to go. But because of results in the earlier kickoff on Saturday, Luton's last minute win over Coventry, it has effectively meant that Argyle went into that game at Preston knowing that they were already down. So what they ended up doing in getting that win and playing so well was actually pretty impressive and showed a great strength of character within the Argyle squad. This is Argyle Analysis, and for the final time for an away game this season, which hasn't brought us too much joy, we'll be picking through the bones of what happened up in Lancashire, and I'm delighted to say that, as always, I'm joined by Aaron Kusak to do just that. Funny one this weekend, wasn't it, Aaron? Because performance-wise, results-wise, it was excellent, and Argyle did what they needed to do, but weirdly, before even kicking a ball in the game, they knew that whatever happened there in the game they played wasn't going to change the fact that they're effectively going to be playing League One football next season.
Yeah, that's true, Charlie. It's kind of sealed the fate, isn't it, unfortunately? And it didn't quite, provide an outcome that everyone was after, i.e. perhaps taking it into the last game of the season coming up at the weekend. But credit to all the players involved and the management, and the fans, where they knew their fate prior to kick-off and they were still able to put in a real excellent display and warranted the 3 points as well, deserved 3 points on the road, which has been so hard to come by all season.
Yeah, it was a really weird little moment. We were about to go on air with our pre-match show. The players were doing their warm-up, and we all knew that, if Coventry got a win if Luton got a win against Coventry in that early kickoff, we knew that was effectively it. So that it wasn't a surprise necessarily that they went in and won the game, but people would have been watching it, they'd have been following it online, they would have been listening to it, you were watching it. Like, as the game went on, despite Luton's kind of dominance really in the game, they weren't breaking through, and so there was a little bit of hope going in to the final few minutes of that one, where it's like, right, okay, we've got the opportunity. Yeah. But then Luton score, and it meant Argyle's season race for survival was effectively over. And it was a weird moment in the ground, by all accounts, because the players, as I say, were warming up. They were just finishing their warm-up, and then suddenly the supporters sort of like got going again.
Yeah.
Like, surreal moment, probably, this.
It must have been, because the players would have, we're just showing the clips here. This is brilliant by the Green Army, and we expect nothing less from what, they're outstanding
They know.
fan set.
They know the Coventry and Luton result.
They know. So that this is a great way of showcasing their support for all the players to say, look, we're right behind you here prior to kick-off, because there would have been a mentality switch. I know they talk about footballers being in the zone and whatnot, but that news would have travelled quite quickly that they're effectively down, and that would deflate. I felt deflated watching the Luton game because of the timing of the goal and also the manner of the goal as well. It was such a bad goal to concede. But that aside, you feel deflated. So these lads who have having to pick themselves up and go out and play and put in a performance as they did, especially first half, I thought they were excellent the first 25 minutes. The way that they moved the ball, the fans got behind them, and we'll see it in a bit. But you can just see the celebration for me of Bundu's goal. You could see the emotion in his celebration as well. It meant for the fans, and it just showcases that win or lose, the fans will always have their back, and they will travel with them through the thick and through the thin, and they'll bounce back, and we'll have to go again next season. Yeah,
let's take a look at Argyle's goals. Very different in the way in which they came about, but this was and we'll go into it later on. This first one was kind of how Argyle played in this first half.
Yeah, on the front foot.
Front stuff.
We've spoken recently about being more direct, but there's a lot in the last month for me, Charlie. A lot more directness with purpose, and you got Bundu on form. Scoring another one. Hardy's in form. Tijani's come into the form in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you've got Barley Mumba's established himself as a starter on that left side, and this was a really well worked move. The pass from Randall was outstanding, by the way, and we'll go into it in a bit. But the timing of the movement, the quality of the ball in, the clinicalness of the finish. Yeah. Bundu's on a crest of a wave, isn't he? He's in the form of his career. Everything he's touching is turning to gold at the minute, and you can just see the emotion that. He's
even in Hardy's face as well.
The emotion. So to me, that for me really kind of harmonised the fans and the players together. And after a little bit of pressure in the second half, we got our second. Callum Wright, first goal in 50 odd games. He's been
just over 2 years.
Yeah, it's a long time since he's had any noticeable contribution in terms of an output. But you can't fault his work rate and his commitment to the team. And the manager clearly trusts him because he's played a lot of minutes this year, albeit whether he started or come off the bench. And, I'm pleased for him because footballers are still human beings, and he took it really well. Maxi with a little glance, a wrestle, a ridiculous, almost reverse volley into his path. And it was a real good poacher's finish. He was in the right position at the right time. And, I think that celebration is dedicated to his dad, isn't it, apparently?
According to Callum.
Apparently, it's unverified. But nonetheless, I'm pleased for him because that goal just took the sting out of Preston's threat, and we managed to hold on for the win. I
want to go back to the point you made right at the start of the show about the players' minds heading into this game, and we've seen it over pretty much since Miron Muzic has come in, but certainly over the last month and a half maybe. There's so much emotion in the game, almost Argyle are playing on that must-win mentality, knowing that they have to win, otherwise they are relegated. And the performances sort of show that, don't they? There's so much kind of energy around the performances and chucking bodies on the line and being compact and then being powerful going forward. And so to have that air taken out of them, knowing that, and they will have known that, that whether or not they have their phones out or whatever, word would have got to them without a shadow of a doubt that 20 minutes before they're about to kick off, all of that energy and preparation and thought that's gone into how they're going to approach this game against Preston is almost, it doesn't mean anything now. So to then put in that performance still, you've got to give huge credit to the players and to the management team as well for keeping them at that level.
I agree with you 100%. All week they'd have prepared for this game, this scenario. What happens if this happens? Literally, 20 minutes before kick-off? The news has come through that a late goal is now sealed their fate. And how do you pick your players up? How do they kind of reset their minds to go, right, let's go out and play and showcase what this football club means to us, the supporting fans, the fans at home watching. It was a real brilliant example of professionalism, commitment and dedication from everyone involved. The fans looking out onto the pitch, the players looking out to the fans, the management, rousing them and getting them behind them. And, that's what being part of a football club is all about. You know, players will come and go, managers will come and go, but the fans will always be there. And for me, it harmonised what this football club's all about.
We saw it in the little recap video there at the start, the desolation on the players and staff's faces at the end of the game shows you, that they knew the situation that they were in, and yet still did put in that performance.
Yes.
You'd normally celebrate a win like that, but it was the emotion we saw in Bundu's goal wasn't obviously there at the end of the game. It would have been ill-placed to have been fist pumping at the end of the game, but that almost shows even more how incredibly strong the performance ended up being, considering that would have been in their that is in their minds throughout the whole game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Preston weren't in the best of form, but they'd only lost 3 at home all year. So it wasn't like it was a stadium you go to and points are easily collected. And our win record on the road has been relatively poor, well, really poor. But in recent weeks, there's been form, isn't there? There's been form, and you only have to look at the points that we've picked up against teams in and around the playoffs to showcase that we can match it with the best, supposedly the best in the division. But unfortunately, we're just going to run out of games.
Yeah. Let's dive into the game as it is then, and start off with a kind of a feature that we've been picking up quite a bit recently, and that's Argyle's sort of potency in their breaks and getting forward and putting pressure on the opposition.
Absolutely. Like this notion now for me of like pace, power, penetration, but not only that, guile, the way that they work the ball. They're starting to work the ball with a little bit more connection, combination. These moments don't fashion out clear-cut chances, but you can see the intent and the positivity to try and build. This, for me, had this gone in, this break here, this is up there with the best of the season. Like, defend your box first and foremost, be ultra difficult to break down. On a regain, though, we are going pace, power, penetration. So Barley Mumba picks up the ball. First mindsets of the surrounding players are run ahead of the ball. Go as fast as you can. Your key ingredient of a counter-attack is pace. Bundu now, off he goes. But I'm going to pay special attention to Ryan Hardy. His movement, I thought, all game, first half in particular, was outstanding. He's going to capture the attention of Jordan Storey, the nearest Preston centre-back. He's going to continue to run across Bundu's eye line because it creates the gap for Tijani to then fill as a result of countering and attacking with purpose. And this ball in was a great pass by Bundu. That's a really great ball in. And on this occasion, he just didn't quite get on the end of it. But had that gone in, you'd have gone from one end to the other in like 10 seconds. What a brilliant counter-attack. But it was the way that they were working the ball. And Ryan Hardy, I thought his movement was outstanding, leading that line. And in recent weeks, he's been running from deeper. But again, look at that ball in. In Tijani, on another day, just gets a toe in front and we get another chance. But they were starting to work the ball, and they have been over the last few weeks. They're passing the ball better, Charlie. They're passing it with purpose. Look at the confidence just to maintain the ball, recognise that we're not just going to kick it forward aimlessly. This ball gets worked backwards. And we're going to pay attention between Pleg Guizello, who's going to get on the ball now, and Ryan Hardy. So Pleggy gets the ball, and Ryan Hardy, left-hand side of the screen at the top, look, he's already ready to go. That means Pleggy's head's up, he's ready. Ryan Hardy's ready to make his run. It means now he can play a ball purposefully into space. He takes it really well and wins a corner. And this is in the first 25 minutes. So you could really see the qualities that were coming out from the way in which the players were trying to connect it. Weeks ago, Randall might have just kicked this forward because that was the main aim to get us at the pitch. Now they've got more awareness, they've got better understanding and relationships, maintain possession, let's build. Now we've got a 2v1 on the left-hand side rather than just kicking it forward in the hope we get a knockdown. Look at the connection. Tijani recognises he wants to isolate Bundu, so he's going to make a drive. That occupies the nearest Preston centre-back. Now it leaves Bundu 1v1. And these are moments that you want to create. Okay, nothing significant materialises, but there's promise. And when you've got promise in your attacks, it gets you on the edge of the seat and you can feel the positivity from the support as well. But look at the way that they're working the ball up. This is a great little interchange. It really is. Purposeful driving by Randall. Hardy recognising it. He's drawn a foul. I don't know if it is a foul, but just you could see there's a lot more qualities. And then this one to finish it off, JB, brilliant piece of individual skill. Look at the confidence to drive and carry. But then Tijani, not just watching, he's going to cause disruption on the last line by making a diagonal run. That invites JB to play a slide rule ball in And then had he continued his run, which Tijani thinks he's going to do, that might have led to a ball into that red zone. And, you know, this then moves us on to the first goal. You know, look at the first goal. Randall's seen this space already. How he's seen it, I don't know. It just showcases his qualities. But Preston are congested on one side of the pitch, and he's just going to hook it deliberately into that space. Barley Mumba is the widest player. He's going to now exploit that space. But look at Bundu in the middle of the screen. Like, he's having a little look at his nearest danger. And what I like about this is his intelligence. He has a look and he has another look. Now, if he decides to run as fast as he can, they've got the advantage, Preston defenders. So he just holds his run. And as a result of just holding his run, he's actually separating himself and making himself available because he almost stands still and slows down, and that invites Barley Mumba to pull the ball square, and what a clinical finish. So a real nice, that all happened in the first half. You know, some 5, 6, 7 examples of purposeful play in, you know, returning a good goal as well.